Hey everybody, welcome to the PB&J show this week. This is a very special episode 300. If you're a fan of the show, you know we mix it up every 100 episodes or so. Today we're doing a deep dive into the current landscape through our lens as PB&J Productions. We're going to tell you the reasons we started, the journey that we've come along the way, and 300 episodes into the Patty G show. And we're going to challenge you with some questions about the cultural assets in our state and how you can contribute to growing our community. As always, thanks to our title sponsor, Velocity Partners Group, for sponsoring the studio, and to the other partners we work with each and every week, Falaya Real Estate, Lake Men's Health Center, Cortex, and PB&J Productions. Enjoy the show.
I think that just speaks to where we're at with technology in the sense that you can do anything and everything so easily now. It's working. You got it.
Everything except a...
Except start a timer. It's different, man. It's different circumstances. You're on the other side of the microphone now, or the other side of the switcher board.
Yeah, I've been on this side a time or two in some ways. In fact, probably like some of the first times you and I have talked were in this context.
I'm trying to think. Was the first time that you and I talked on Talk 107.3 when I brought you on for a morning segment? Was that our first? I know that was our first media,
like collaboration,
public collaboration, so to speak.
I would imagine we had hung out before that at some point, had a drink at Government Taco, gone to lunch, something like that. Because here's the thing: is at that time
we had to have hung out at some level.
Yeah, well, because I was overseeing all the podcast stuff, and Patty G show was syndicated through that. So I'm assuming we had to have interacted in some capacity on that.
Or maybe it was just in passing.
Could be.
I was doing either Jay's show or Brian's show for them one day, and just happened to meet you that way,
you never
in
know.
The hallway.
Yeah, right.
Like how else you meet folks at Guarantee, right? is just the hallway passing.
Yeah. But pretty early on, I would say, was whatever you had filled in for Haldane, and were finding people to kind of co-host with, and brought me on for an hour or so, somewhere in there. In fact, almost every time it comes up in the time hop memory, I think I text it to you like, hey, look, it's been 4 years.
I was going to say, was it 4 or 5 years now at this point?
I think 4. Yes, wow. 21 would have been the time. So to date this episode, if somebody's watching it 20 years from now in a documentary about something tragic that happened to us for their...
Here's where it all began. Right. Yeah. Well, no, and I think at that point in time in 21, so in 21, the show had been going for 2 years. So we must have just crossed episode 100.
That sounds about right. And you were kind of like taking some of these steps for it to be a little bit more of an elevated thing beyond like the screen porch and the kitchen. This was like, now I'm looking at sponsors and trying to get studio or some type of more elevated setup. You had already been recording at Earl's, I want to say, because you did that during COVID.
Yeah, we did during COVID. So it was we did Earl's there, and then episode 100 we filmed out at Government Taco.
Yes.
So we had already had the Flashbang Productions was producing the show,
right?
So we already had that established. So in 21, I was already doing I was already having a producer. I was rocking and rolling.
Well, because I remember the week that I was supposed to start at Guarantee, I want to say, if not very close to, you had Flynn on. And I remember y'all talking about a big new podcast initiative that they were going to do. Right. It was like right around that time. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. When Flynn came on, he was like, that was around the same time that they started doing a lot more podcasts and then brought you on to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our paths began talking and podcasting. But, dude, I'm like thinking back to that, doing the morning show a few times for Brian and then doing the evening drive time show for Jay a couple times. I am not good at solo talk.
Dude, I mean...
It's so hard,
It is brutal. Like, I've talked to a lot of people. So, my background, and we can get into it at some point if you want, but it's varied across many different types of entertainment media, from the music industry to broadcast television and radio to new media stuff, social media influencing, podcasts, websites, that whole deal. And when I meet people that have varied backgrounds like that, one thing that I hear a lot is solo talk. At the time, solo talk radio is, a thing, but like obviously that's evolved and blurred lines now where, you've got these talk TV shows, you've got podcasts, whatever else. But carrying something alone like that is so brutal. Like I've talked to so many people that said, I can do the highest pressure film role. I can go on a Broadway stage and handle it. Dude, if you put me in front of a microphone and ask me to talk for 30 straight minutes on a topic without somebody to bounce off of, it feels impossible. So I don't think you're alone in that.
What Brian's up to 2 hours, 3 hours now. He goes from 6 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, like I knew when I was doing Brian's show, that's why I was like, I need to load guests in. Like I need people to come in and talk to me. And then it was one day when you were the only person that came in. It was just you and I at the time he was only doing 2 hours. And so it was just you and I for that day. But there were other days like, okay, I need this person. I had like 6 people lined up. And he does that to an extent. But still, like for 3 hours to know that's your airtime. Like I knew doing Jay's show for evening drive time, that at least had Chuck.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like it was easy to bounce off Chuck and that was kind of fun. And you could bring in food and drinks and have a day. And that was easy. It's that morning drive time talk show is like, dude.
Here's some headlines and go. Yeah.
Here's some headlines and go. And then you got to keep up to date and you got to prepare the night before. And it's like, and I get like, that's your job. That's your role. It's what you do. I guess I'm viewing at it in the lens of like still a part-time thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I
right.
can't see.
You're a fill-in. Yeah. It's different.
Right, I'm a fill-in. Like I can't fathom doing this every single day. It was like, well, if that was your only thing, it just becomes different.
Dude, I mean, I even think though, like I've known people that have like full-time careers doing that try to avoid that. Now there's some people that are built different. Like Matt Moscona, that guy, you can sit down in front of a microphone and he'll go, 30 minutes off the dome, very well cadenced, planned out, doesn't lose track of what he was trying to get across. But man, I've never been that way. I truly have to have somebody, even if it's something I'm super knowledgeable about, I need the interpersonal relation somehow to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, you need something, right? Like, and yeah, he does his good scone after games. He'll do his after game shows. And he does his cigar shows and all that stuff. And yeah, it's now on Facebook Live and he's got chat and people are interacting via chat, but still like
even still, I mean, I remember when he was
you've got to open it, you've got to get the people there. Like that whole cadence of doing solo is just tough.
And he truly would do some solo too. Like I remember LSU Daily, but then also I forget, there was this group Locked On LSU. So Locked On is a podcast network that Tegna bought, but it was, full of local kind of people and they had tapped him for LSU. And he'd go lock himself in a closet and emerge 45 minutes later with an episode. I mean, it was like just a robot, So some people have it. I don't. I've never. And people that I know, they're like full time in it. So a good friend is Jacques Doucet, WFB sports reporter for our local CBS affiliate, right? And he's had a 30-year career in television or something like that, like high pressure, celebrities, whatever else. And, I don't think he's talking out of school. He would tell you the same thing. When he had to fill in on one of those solo radio shows, it was like he had a million notes and he had it scripted every second, like you're talking about, where it's like, I need a new person to call every 15 minutes to make sure I've got, somebody to help be a lifeline. So it's a rare skill. People that can do that, I'm always very impressed.
Well, and it's, getting into the podcast realm is in a way that, but a little bit more scripted.
Yeah.
So there's the cadence of doing a live podcast, which we did for, I want to say 2 years of the show. It was truly live, right? It was like we were starting live, and like if the guest was late, show started late. Like that was the whole big thing.
And people are watching this live at that time. They're like, they can tune in, and you're just pushing it straight to Facebook.
Yeah, they could tune in. We had people asking questions and interactive, and it's a little bit different now. But like you still had that element of being live, and so it was always like you're on. And when the show was starting, I had that battle of like, do I go and do it solo or do I go and have a guest? And like I never thought for like more than 5 minutes about the solo route. Like I couldn't do it, man. Like I can't sit there and talk. Now I can talk to someone.
Yes. Yeah. Me too.
I can talk with someone, but I can't talk at an empty chair.
Yeah. I can even talk at someone.
That's what I'm saying.
Like if you just want to sit there and nod at me for 45 minutes, I can do that. It's just, but you need a little bit of, at least I do.
You need like, and I don't know if it's just, the personality type of thing where like I need to be able to either get some level of feedback, whether it's verbal feedback, a physical feedback with a head nod or something, or like a, eyes wide open, like what did you just say? But just some form of, I got to be able to know that who I'm talking to something.
Yeah. So one way I've described this before, and I think this is a principle that translates across business. So if somebody's listening and tired of us talking about our personal journey, here's something you can take and use. I am what I would describe as an external processor. I struggle greatly with completely internal processing. Something comes across and I need to look at it and go, how do I process this? How do I handle it? How do I feel about it? Whatever else. Like to the point that even sometimes when I'm looking at something and trying to weigh it, I'll go mentally, what would Patrick think of that? What would XYZ think of that? Because it helps me just start to frame through somebody else's eyes. I'm like, okay, so I know Patrick is focused on entrepreneurship and promoting Louisiana, and does this line up with those? Because it helps me just have someone in mind.
Correct.
Totally different way than some people process. Some people have very strong internal systems where they go, this is how I feel about it, and I now need to think about how I communicate that to others. Neither one is right or wrong. These are just styles of communication. And I think sometimes understanding that and diagnosing it and figuring out how to compensate for your weaknesses and capitalize on your strengths with it is important, and maybe a conversation that people don't understand. If you've ever had sort of a conflict with someone communication style wise and not gotten why they're not as self-motivated, maybe they're one of those external processors. You might even notice this sometimes if you send me like a note where I'm, and get my mind thinking about something, you get like 4 or 5 back where it's like, that just made me think of 8 other things that might need to be adjusted. Huge external processor. So I don't know. It's just kind of a weird quirk, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's thinking out loud.
Yeah.
It's people thinking out loud, and some folks talk through things, process it externally, what have you. So no, I totally get that. And for me, it's in a similar way. It's not necessarily to externalize something, but I guess I'm like so always up in my head and my thoughts about the whole day. Then it's like when I sit down to go and do a show, it's like, okay, I need to pull someone else's brain power over here.
It's like escapism.
What's going on with what your days have? Like, you tell me about what's happening in your day. I'm much more intrigued at this point. I've had enough.
Need to escape
I've had enough time up here. Like,
I love that.
I need you turn the lights off, close the door for a minute.
Well, you're in the right thing, I think, then, because you really get to once a week here escape to another world. Yeah.
Well, and it's I also find it genuinely fascinating to get others people's take and perspective on not just life, but like transactional items. Like, okay, so you did that. Why did you do it this way? And I always ask, or I'm told, I always ask 1 or 2 too many questions.
See, there's no such thing in my mind.
Where it's like, well, dude, I've had people like not talk to me because I was apparently too invasive in my line of questioning.
That's okay. They're self-selecting for people you don't want to be around, I guess.
And I'm like, I'm like asking when I think are harmless questions or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's some like everybody always says, well, that's such a personal question. I'm like, okay, then tell me it's a personal question. But like, we're having a personal conversation. Like personal topics are off table. That's gone out the window here. When you start telling me about, you're remarried twice and now you're in business with this person, like your personal questions are gone. I'm so fascinated by this situation. I got to know more.
I try to disarm people, go, hey, look, just tell me to F off if this is too personal. Like, you're not going to bother me. I'm just going to ask, But I think, and maybe this is why you and I get along on a lot of this. I'm a very curious person by nature. I look at a system or how something is set up, or even sometimes like a relationship or an interaction, and I can't help but try and have some curiosity to figure out how all the pieces work, what could be changed, what could be improved. Have you thought about this? Almost to a sickness. I think that's one of those that people give in the classic interview. What are your weaknesses? Well, I just can't help but try to fix things.
I care too much.
But truly,
I work too hard.
Sometimes to my own detriment, I stick my nose into things that I shouldn't and think like, oh, I could probably help fix that or grow it. And I take on things that I shouldn't. But you and I think are the same way, where it's like you just want to know. Before we recorded this, we were talking about trying to find a remote for this TV, and it's like we can't stop looking around and trying to figure out a way to make this thing happen. And I think entrepreneurs just kind of, that's a bone that a lot of them have is curiosity and trying to figure out a new angle.
Right. And you've got to have at least a certain amount of curiosity or curiosity, dumbness, whatever it is, to go out and do something on your own.
Yeah,
because if you're not, curious enough about the situation, about the process, about the product, about the service, you're just going to keep accepting for whatever it is that you're doing and what you're given and what you're told, that you're never going to stop and maybe challenge what you've got happening to think, can I do this better? Can I do this more efficiently?
Yeah.
Is there a better way to have X, Y, and Z occur? And, it's one of the things that makes entrepreneurs who they are, is because they do go down that path. They do think, okay, this chair is not seating right. Okay, is there another chair that makes a better lumbar support? Okay, no, they don't. All right, well, how are we supposed to sit? Okay, are we really supposed to be sitting down for, extended periods of time? What is the appropriate amount of time for folks to sit? Should we be standing?
Has anyone created a product that lets you stand while you...
That's right. Like, has anyone created a product, and then voila, standing desk popped up, and then voila, you've got these chairs that people sit in, and you're like, way lean back because that's ergonomically correct or whatever it is. And you have these people that challenge and ask those questions. And I think it's a part of what makes entrepreneurs who they are, is because they do have a genuine mind of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, it's almost like between entrepreneurship, starting your own business, and then we also, obviously, because of the type of business we are, do a lot of entertainment media. Both of them, I would say, attract what I would call positive irrational confidence.
Positive irrational confidence. All right.
Yeah.
Let's use a podcast term here. Let's unpack
that. Yeah. In fact, I think that could probably be the name of my autobiography, Positive Irrational Confidence. I believe, and look, some of this is my background in music, but you say yes to everything and then figure it out, right? You have to believe that you can do anything in this world if you're going to get opportunities that aren't, standard traditional paths. I would equate it like this. If you have a wide receiver that's incredible, it is common that they are a huge diva personality on the team, right? I think if you're a sports fan, you can probably think of 10 names that fit the bill. And I think I've come back around as I've gotten older to that being a positive thing, because here's the deal. If you didn't believe that you were invincible, you would never put the pads on. If you didn't believe you could be 1 in a million, why would you ever get started? Because only 1 in a million make it. So it attracts people that believe that about themselves. And I think that's true of entertainment, which we are heavily involved in. And I think that's true of entrepreneurship, is you have to kind of be fearless in a way that might not make some sense. You have to have almost a lack of shame. Like
you have to have a lack of shame.
Yes. And believe that you can do things. You need to believe that you have a perspective that nobody else has. Because if you don't, then why are you even getting in the game? So it's kind of interesting. I think we're in a double whammy of attracting people. And that's kind of a soft spot in my heart, is people that are dreamers, I guess, at the end of the day, that you think you can bring something new to the world that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and it's dreamers, it's folks that think they've got something different, a unique spin on things. But I think it's also, like for me, I always, or if I'm running up a situation where it's like, okay, should I do this, super risky thing or should I not? I always find the worst case scenario. And I'm not then going to go find the best case scenario. I'm going to find the worst case scenario in the situation only, right? Because if I can live and I can stomach the worst case situation, I know that it's going to be okay. If the worst thing that possibly could happen, if I make this decision, what's the worst thing that can happen? All right, can I live with that? All right, is this something that's palatable? Like, am I going to be okay? Yeah, you're going to be okay. Great, let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Hey, that's
because then
really
from there. Everything else is upside.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, if you shoot for the moon, you hit a star. It's like, no, like if I figure out, okay, if I fall out the orbit and I'm lost forever is the worst case scenario. Great. So if that doesn't happen, we've got a win here.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Expect nothing. You'll always be pleasantly surprised. Is that, yeah?
I guess. Or expect the worst. And when the positive happens, you're like, this is way better than I thought.
I think that's honestly kind of healthy. If you struggle with anxiety, that's probably something that you've been told is like, think about what's the worst that could possibly happen and you're going to be okay. I think there's something to that.
Yeah. And look, you've got to have a little bit of that in you to be an entrepreneur. You have to have given at least one split millisecond of thought of what's the worst thing that could happen if I go for this venture, right?
Yeah.
So, if I'm opening up a restaurant, what's the worst thing that could happen? Nobody could show up. Yeah. Nobody could show up. I could not have any money to pay the bills. They turn the lights off. They turn the power off. They turn all the water off.
Yeah, Chapter 11 I'm
whatever. Going through bankruptcy. All right. That's the worst case scenario. Okay. So, what's the alternative? Well, if everything else is the alternative, then we're good. It's reflecting back on like what we had JP come in here with our moms,
Mhm.
right? That was their thought. Like, oh, no one's going to show up.
Yeah.
We only need 12 chairs because it's all the only people that are going to show up are 12 people, and then they end up with a line out the door.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like they even had that mentality and that mindset of worst case scenario, let's prepare for that.
Yeah.
And if not, if you're like, we're going to prepare for best case scenario, you're going to end up over leveraged.
Yeah, I think so.
You're going to end up way over your skis. And then when the worst case scenario happens, you don't have a plan. And now you're on stage with your pants around your ankles.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in, swing every time you can at the plate. Don't plan for the home run ball. Be ready for it if you hit it, but be ready to bunt and get to first and make incremental steps and things like that. I think anytime you can set up something that has scalable upside, if it works out, however, is built on a very modest conservative model, I think that's always a safe bet to take, because it's like, don't cut off your upside. That's the whole reason you're an entrepreneur. Otherwise you would go sign up and get a 401k and health insurance and a paycheck. So don't cut off your
stability.
Upside. Yeah, seriously, don't cut off your upside. Be in it for something that has a chance. But also, know that, have realistic expectations. Set achievable things.
It's never going into it knowing nothing good will ever happen.
Right.
Let me clear that up. Right. It's never like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And,
dream big.
It could burn the building down, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right. Like, that's the worst thing that could happen. No, it's like, okay, I want to pursue this, and I know there's a lot of upside, and that's great, and that's really awesome, and I don't have to worry about as much if that happens. But what do I have to worry? What is my worry? What is my concern? That's if this happens. Okay, let's plan for this. Let's focus on this. Great. Now I've solved for the worst case scenario. So then let's just get out. Let's just go.
Yeah. And the worst case scenario oftentimes is not nearly as bad as you think it's going to be. I mean, even if that were the case, let's say, in their example, they're young, they take out this big line of credit to go, or however, I don't know, however you might start something like that.
Friends, families, and fools, your 3 Fs.
Yeah, right.
You hit up the 3 Fs and you start your business.
Yeah. And so let's say it burns out in 2 years and you're chapter 11 and you're whatever else. Like, you're young. There's a second phase. Like, people file bankruptcy. You'll be okay. Like, there's options.
There are options, but there is also a careful consideration that needs to happen when folks explore a debt path.
Yes, no doubt. I mean,
because at the end of the day, and I've talked with several successful founders on this topic, and when they invest in an entrepreneur, they invest in a startup, they're putting their skin on the line for this business as well. Mm-hmm. And if they're too focused if the entrepreneur who started this business is too focused in that of like, oh, well, yeah, I could just file for Chapter 11. Right. I'm young.
I'm not seeing a snake oil salesman and leave town.
Not even that, right? But it's they then work really, really hard, and they get this thing going. And then at the end of the day, they write their investors and say, we failed, and it was a great learning curve. Mm-hmm. And like, that's always the answer. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
And the investor's sitting there like, yeah, I learned a lot too. You're not getting a second check.
More expensive than a college degree.
Right. And it's not that they don't have a care for the money. I'm not saying that. I think it's this battle of, you have entrepreneurs that need to know, okay, I'm young enough, I can take the risk, but then also own up when it doesn't succeed in the way they think it will.
For sure. I'm also, for me personally, probably to a fault, I'm extremely conservative when it comes to things like debt. I would rather start extremely small and build slowly than sometimes, even if it means I'm missing out on an opportunity that I could otherwise go all in on. So I've always kind of shied away from some of that stuff, but you're right. Like, and there are pieces that will carry with you, because the way that you treat people, like if you just go in guns a-blazing and are not a good steward of whatever financing you did get, that's totally different than it not working out for other circumstances, right? Like if you open a restaurant and then the world shuts down for a pandemic and you go out of business, that's one thing. If it was because you had a horribly misguided vision and tried to gamble a bunch of money on a crazy bet, then that's a different ball game, right?
Yeah. Or you had a great successful honeymoon period, and then now you're off in, Turks and Caicos and Cabo sitting on a beach, and you're like, oh, this is great. The honeymoon phase is awesome, and we're just loving life here. And then all of a sudden you start to find your norm, and you don't come back and try to push through the norm and make sure the norm that's stabilized can sustain whatever lifestyle you're living. then you also end up being a bad steward of the money.
Yeah, will never be me. I mean, I've just, especially coming
the
from
beach doesn't speak well to you.
that part I would love. That part I would love, but not if I can't.
Not a fan of the sun.
Not if I can't afford it.
Yeah.
The thing is, especially coming from the music world, because you'll see people that have a big hit come out of nowhere. I mean, music is one of those things where, like we had a friend, for instance, who wrote a song that ended up becoming a massive wedding song in Korea. Okay, like just who can ever predict that? It was a.
Contempt.
Okay, yeah. Let that thought cook.
Yeah,
I doubt you know this person. I'd be shocked.
I don't know the person, but the thought has been baked and we're ready to deliver. But you finish.
Okay, so anyway, he's got this, and overnight, huge success, right? And I've seen so many people. I mean, I guess this is like athletes too. You get a huge influx of cash. This is not this person's story, but just as an example, you get a huge level of success, and you think this is how it's always going to be, and you don't plan for it. I mean, you don't sock away. You don't operate the way that you have. You expand too quickly and you break. I'll tell you, the most money that I've ever made still to this day was 2020. In the 5 years since, I've not eclipsed what I earned in 2020 because the opportunity was just out of control. I mean, it was like panhandling in California. It's like you just get it while you can. I mean, it's a contractor going down after Katrina or whatever. It was like, for my very specific niche, it was the hottest time on planet Earth for me to be doing what I was doing. And so a lot of people just start to, get dollar signs in their eyes and think, well, I could just only grow from here, and let's go get a new car, and let's go get a new house, and let's go on all these trips, and let's buy 3 locations instead of 1. Let's, whatever, standardize it to your business. I, maybe to a fault, am always really conservative with stuff like that. I mean, you've probably seen times where you're like, yeah, just order it. Stop asking. Like, just pull the trigger on that. I'm like, I'm so hesitant sometimes to even take that leap. So I might be the extreme opposite end of that spectrum.
I know. Look, it took you like a month to buy an HDMI cable. I know. You're like, Patrick, it's 30. Look, Patty, it's $35. Sure? It's a $35 HDMI cable.
The receipt? Yeah.
Like, you want the receipt, man? Like, look, I'm not trying to steal it. I'm like,
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, maybe a lesson to learn is some version in the middle of that. Like, I'm maybe the cautionary tale to leap a little more, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm of saying be extremely conservative with that. Just sock away and build up. Every $1 million you can put in a bank somewhere is $50,000 a year at 5% interest. And so if you're a company with $10 million a year in assets, and you're not profitable after everything, $500,000 a year, you'd be better off putting it in a mutual fund somewhere. So, I think be very conservative and use that type of capital to leverage new initiatives when you can. Now, that's not everybody. But, if I was ever in that situation, that's when you would find me on a beach if I had, $20 million and can just collect the $1 million in interest and live that life.
Yeah. See, Jay, you're like every investor or manager's worst nightmare.
I'm boring. I get it.
You're boring. Well, not that you're... I mean, yeah, you're boring.
Yeah.
But it's like, yes, that's the safe and easy path,
yeah.
right?
I'll be boring on a beach while they're sitting in a boardroom stressing over something else.
Which is right, and they're doing that in hopes of not having a 5% return annually. Mm-hmm. They're hoping to have a 30, 40, 50% return. And yeah, you're going to hit and you're going to miss oftentimes. And your route, sure, is safe, but it's like you had to do something to get to that level. But so you pulled all your risks on the front end to get that payday. Then you can coast. But it's like on the way there, you have to have some incremental risk. Not saying, yeah, go bet it all on black, baby. But like,
no, that's the great conundrum of why I would never have $20 million is because I would never take the risk to get there. No, you're 100% right. I mean, you need a healthy, positive, irrational confidence to make one of those bets and to go. But I will say, I mean, I don't think I'm completely off base. I can think of the profile of a bunch of companies that did something in the 80s or 90s to get to that level and then have been operating at 3% or less net profit for however long and would have been better to cash out a generation ago, that's super boring and doesn't spur industry or create cool things around town and stuff like that. So I hope actually that people don't listen to that. I hope that people continue to provide jobs and put that money in the economy and things. But yeah, I think,
but I think
be conservative when you can.
To incremental growth, right?
Yeah.
So, like looking at an example I mean, you yourself are living the entrepreneur life, right? Like you don't get a W-2 from anybody, like that's the definition of okay, you're an employee at that point, right? So you get that W-2, and you don't have that. You got a gazillion 1099s, whatever, by living this contract life, and then you and I formalized. I think it's 2 years now. It's 3 years now. 2 years.
2
now,
full.
Right?
We basically just completed our second 52-week full thing because for the timeline, my very first episode I produced for you was episode 200, and this is episode 300. So
there we go. So 2 years into it, right? You produced 200 with Kay?
Mm-hmm. First one. I didn't record it, but I edited it.
Oh, you edited and published it. Okay. I was gonna say I don't recall you being there that day at Building 5. But yeah, so 2 years ago, we formalized the PB&J Productions thing, right? And so we were like, let's go out and let's do this thing. Let's start producing shows for folks.
Right.
And we have taken that approach. We'll grow it as folks come in. We're not actively seeking, we're not actively pushing, we're not leveraging lines of credit to then go and invest and do all this other stuff, because we were patient enough to know that let's get our good base, our good rapport in line, and then we'll focus on that scalability at a certain level. Right? Once you get to a certain level in revenue, scaling becomes a lot easier. It's like we're working through the kinks. Yeah, we're working through the growing pains, the issues. Oh, like this mic arm is broken. Okay, we got to get this. Okay, oh, we need this box. We need this bag. We're getting all that stuff out the way now. So then when it comes to somebody saying, hey, can you come and do a week-long production of XYZ? Yeah, no problem. Like we've got enough skill set from your years in the industry to be able to then leverage that and say, okay, yeah, we can do this, and that we've got enough slow build of gear accumulation to say we have the technology now.
Yeah, and just rapport and working together. I mean, I think so many people. I guess what I'm getting at when I kind of started this line of thinking is, how many times have you seen somebody in that first year off of that excitement go too far too fast?
Yeah,
they go 6 months in. We've had 3 incredible events. Let's go open 5 of these locations. And it's too much and it breaks. There's a middle ground. You got to be risky. You got to be safe. You got to build stuff up. But I think, that's good advice for people, is just make sure that you're really thinking through, is this actually because we have something repeatable and we have a solid foundational system, or are we going too fast?
Yeah. When you find yourself starting to say no more than yes because of the calendar, that's when you're like, all right, let's really start to scale this thing. When the no's are going out quicker than the yeses, not for a sense of you can't do it physically, but because you don't have the bandwidth to actually handle the workload. That's where I find folks like, oh yeah, I had these past 2 weeks were slammed. I hired 2 or 3 more people. I'm like, what does it look like 4 or 5 weeks from now? Oh, well, it's not booked yet. But, this past 2 weeks is any indication.
As long as I close 10 more jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying you can't close 10 more jobs, but if you're at the point where you're booked solid for 3 or 4 months, great. Now you've got something, you can build and leverage that. But if you're sitting there saying this past 2 weeks were slammed, let me just go ahead and spend so much money.
And, I'll add to that, how diversified are you? Because the other mistake I've seen lots of, especially like marketing agencies or other places make, is if one major client is too much of your business, if they disappear, you are now toast. You don't want to be necessarily, now this has worked out for some, I'm not saying this is universal advice, but being a remora eel clinging to a big shark is a scary prospect sometimes if they shake you loose, So I've definitely seen people hire on a bunch for some big project. This is notorious, especially in the state world, because the state might give you some massive 1 year, 6 month, whatever, and you bring on a bunch of people and then it doesn't renew because somebody else didn't get elected or, who knows what. It can lead to a lot of awkward stuff where you're firing people or you're dropping balls for other clients because, work changed or resources changed or whatever else. So that's another thing that I always encourage people is don't fall in love with just one big client coming through. That can be a really scary prospect.
Yeah. You never want to have all of your eggs in the one basket, because then you're too concentrated. And to your point, that one egg could wake up and be like, yeah, I don't want you anymore, And so if you've got 100 of them or 10 of them or whatever,
that's okay. Think of us next time,
Yeah, even if you have two or three of equal size. Like, hey, great, cool, understand, no problem, no big deal. Like, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, here's whatever you need. But every entrepreneur starting out is going to get that first person, that one person, and that's always, it's the fault of first, where the first thing you see, you then compare everything else to that first. When you're shopping for a car, the first car you see, every car thereafter is going to be compared to that first car.
Yeah.
First house you see, every house thereafter is going to be compared to that first house. And it's like, well, the first house had this, first house had that, because it's just, you have the love of first.
Yep.
And so you've got to get beyond that to really be successful and to grow.
Yeah. And oftentimes, like, think about the profile of who that first client is, right? If you're starting a business, it's very likely a personal connection of some kind. And so you can already know it's going to be a different situation than when it's a stranger. I mean, you're talking about usually a friend or a family or something like that. It's a
and that's so then, like, looking back over the last 300 episodes and where I hit that point with the show, where it started becoming not like real strangers, but like connected strangers, where I was now having someone come on the show who I didn't know but was referred to me by somebody. The first one I ever did where I didn't know, I didn't have a first connection to the person. I was met through some other folks, was Will Barrios with Tatro Toys.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
He was the first guest that came to the house, and I had not met him before that day. And so, like, that was the tipping point. I think I have to go back and look, maybe, 15 or 20 episodes into the show or whatever it was. And I was like, okay, now this is starting to get to the point where it's more than just friends and family.
Yeah. I mean, I think that also has kind of an interesting parallel to businesses depending on what type of business you're in. Now, if you start a restaurant or something, that's probably day one. You've got people you didn't know, right?
Just you got your first two nights, friends and family for your training and stuff like that. Your soft opening. Yeah, but beyond that,
But pretty quickly. But if you're anything that's
you don't know who Susan is in that chair over there.
Right. If you're a B2B company, a consultant, even stuff like creative services, marketing, advertising, like anything that's heavy client like that, probably even to the point of like contracting, unless you run a massive marketing campaign of some kind. Once you start to get to that level where people are discovering you outside of your immediate sphere of influence, I think that's a good, healthy indicator that like maybe this is time to grow or scale, because now you've got some type of momentum, some type of machine behind you that's generating revenue, Well,
you have other people besides your mom and sharing your stuff, right? And so
I hope to get to that point one day.
Where your mom likes and shares your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I love
No, my mom.
Kidding, love you, Mom. I know you listen. But no, it's true. Like, when you get beyond that point, you now have had a complete stranger assess your business, assess what you do or what you serve, and say, I'm going to get behind that.
Yeah.
And
it's validating.
That is a validating feeling. And it's the point where, as an entrepreneur, you have the thought or the glimpse that this might work. Like, this could be something, like you've got those major success stories. That's like opening night, we went bazonkers and blew up and all that stuff. Right. But like for the normal layperson who's not
schmucks down here,
right? Us folks down here at the bottom, when you get that first like little glimpse of, wait, a non-person in my circle is actually accepting of what I'm doing, and they want to support it, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is possible. Like I still can visualize the entire transaction from the first t-shirt I ever sold at a trade show.
That's awesome.
Like it's me and Charlotte, and we are in Thibodaux, Louisiana at this trade show, and I've got this booth set up with maybe 30 or 40 shirts, like hardly anything. And I've got them on the wall, and they're like,
that's one for each person in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Legit. And it's like they're hanging on the racks. I've got like metal wire racks built in my booth and everything. And guy walks up, he looks at it, and he looks at like I had 2 colors and 2 designs. Like that's what so it was like, you didn't have much to select from.
A
right?
or B, yeah.
Right. A, B, C, or D, because I had 2 shirts in 2 colors. I had 2 designs in 2 different colors. I had a teal. More like a lime greenish, and then a butter. Like the color was butter, legit. It was Comfort Colors butter.
Comfort
that
Colors
was the
butter.
color.
I like that is my comfort color is butter, so I like it.
Dude, it was a hot sale item, man. Let me tell you what. And the guy walked up. And I'll never forget it. He walked up and he was like, man, he's like, what, like, who are you? What do you do? And I was like, made up this, I didn't make it up. I like explained my goal in this elaborate story of what it was. And he was like, okay. He's like, well, that's all great. I own a shrimp company, and this boat that you've got on your back of your shirt reminds me of the company and the family and everything. So I want to buy one for every one of my family members in the company. So the man, my first sale, bought like four, I think it was 4 or 5 or 6 shirts.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, oh, all right, this is cool. And I
just made $12.
Legit, man. Like, shit, man, I lost so much money.
That's the true mark of an entrepreneur. If your business is losing money as you're making sales.
That business lost me so much money.
But we learned a lot. We learned a lot. Yeah,
I told myself that because I funded it. But it was like I went into that trade show and I told Charlotte, I said, all right, I need to sell 12 shirts. If I sell 12 shirts, I'll sign up for the next one. Mm-hmm. And I had one sale and I sold 6. And I was like, hot dang. Like, this could be something. And it was just a phenomenal feeling, whipping out the iPhone 8 with the square plugged into the microphone jack, and swiping his card, seeing 4.5% of the money go away right at the gate. Yep. And I'm like, oh,
but to your tax number,
right. Like, I'm paying those credit card fees. Yeah. Right. And so like, that was super cool to experience and live, because it was truly, all right, yeah, we're wearing the shirts, but like, it's us. But to have the stranger walk up, immediately be just look at the product and say, I like this, I want to purchase it, and I want to support whatever this brand is doing because it means something to me. Like, that was huge.
Yeah. I think it's an emotional thing because, we talked about this idea of when you're getting into it, what types of personalities it draws. It takes a lot of vulnerability in a way to kind of put that out there, because essentially what you're doing is, you're putting yourself and your ideas, your product, your whatever out there. And that's an inherently vulnerable thing because the marketplace could reject it, right? And rejection of that is rejection of you, your ideas, whatever else. So that validation piece that you said, it's almost a confirmation of something that you might be self-conscious about when you get to that point, because you're telling yourself as you're creating a business, I think this is a good idea. I think it can work. I think I have something unique. I think. And then that you get that realization of, okay, now I know with empirical evidence from a financial transaction. For me, the most memorable times I can think of that just on my side have been in the music world. Anytime I wrote a song and saw it performed somewhere, or had someone tell me I love that song, especially if it was like they didn't even know that I wrote it or something like that. That's a really special kind of moment to see somebody, because it's such a it's what you described, it's your idea and seeing and realizing that it was successful, but with this added element of it being like an artistic kind of expression. Maybe one of the most notable ones is I had a complete stranger, discover a song arrangement that I'd done on the internet and wrote me this long email explaining that this was a cover of a song that was very important to him and his fiance. And they'd been looking around for a version that was a little softer because they want to do their first dance at their wedding to it.
No.
Yeah. And he was like, hey, can I have a high-res copy of this so we can do our first dance at our wedding? And I was like, dude, how's that not just like well up inside you to go, I'm a part of this person's story now because of this piece of art that I put out there? And, business to an extent is like that. Like I said, it's very personal when you put a product or a service out there. You're asking the marketplace to validate part of you, kind of. So, yeah, that feeling when you have the first purchase, you have the first customer, you have the first outside person discover you, you have leads coming in, that's the drug that keeps people doing it.
This episode of the Patty G Show is brought to you by Cortex. Cortex is the trusted technology partner for small businesses across Louisiana, delivering managed IT, cybersecurity, and smart strategies to help you leverage AI without the confusion. I mean, aren't we all confused by AI nowadays? As a locally owned company, we understand the challenges Louisiana businesses face and provide tailored solutions that keep your operations secure and efficient. Whether you're looking to strengthen your cybersecurity or explore how AI can give your business a competitive edge, Cortex is here to help. Be sure to mention the Patty G Show and receive a free cybersecurity risk and analysis to see where your business stands. Dude, first website sale.
Yeah. Dude.
I'm telling you, man.
I hear the Shopify noise in my dreams. The little indicator whenever a sale is happening.
I had that many website sales. I don't hear it in my dreams. I couldn't. You could give me three different sounds, two different sounds.
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know between the two which one's a Shopify and which one is something you just.
We
made
had a
up on the spot.
Shopify store for a long time, and it was like, I had the sound on for notifications during that period of my life, and it would just be ching, ching, ching. The little thing. That's funny.
Yeah. No, I had the coolest sale I ever had was out of Canada.
Oh, there you go. Oh, and international. I mean, when someone discovers you from around the world, that is a crazy feeling.
To have somebody reach out and spend money on the website from a different country.
Yeah.
Talk about a rush, man.
I mean,
that is just absolutely incredible. Because no longer it's like, oh, yeah, like somebody in Lafayette found out about me. Somebody in Denham Springs found out about me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, Florida picked up Florida. Ooh. Texas. It was like Canada. Yeah. And I was like, he ordered it, and I looked at it, and I said, okay, I've never seen this type of address before. I'm like, what is this address? I hand wrote that person a note, man. I was so ecstatic.
Oh, dude.
Given that somebody had found it from
Do you ever think about the fact that, like, for even probably our parents' generation, but certainly like our grandparents' generation, that was an impossibility for 99.99999% of all businesses, Like your grandpa didn't grow up in a world where he could start a business and in the first 6 months, someone could discover him from another side of the planet and order something and have it shipped,
My grandpa's never been on a plane.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
he's never flown.
People that have grown up in the internet age, it's maybe a marvel that we don't realize that, like, for better or worse, you're competing in the global marketplace from day one. I mean, your podcast...
You have the opportunity to compete globally.
I wouldn't even say opportunity. I would say no matter what, you don't have a choice. You can't push this podcast out and not compete globally.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I think we're really big in... I think the show is really big in... Is it Russia?
Russia.
No, I'm telling you, like I looked at the Spotify for Creators analytics, and it's like it gives me all like where it's at, right?
Yeah.
And so let's see, Discovery. No, it's audience. So it's like I'll get on my numbers. I'm sorry, Hong Kong, and Israel.
Wow,
we have 2.7% of our listening audience is in Hong Kong.
I mean,
2.4% in Israel.
15 years ago, 25 years ago, that is an impossibility.
So we are heard, the Patty G Show is heard across 88 countries.
Yeah. That's a third, better than a
countries.
third of countries worldwide.
Only 87.1% of this show is based in United States of America.
Yeah.
Like, our tops, Hong Kong, Israel, Singapore, and Germany.
Can you imagine telling your grandfather that, like, one day you'll have a business where 1 out of 7 people are not in the United States?
That just is...
It's baffling.
It blows me away. I think I looked on here the other day and I didn't realize that was actually a country. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of that country before.
Which one?
I don't know. I'm trying to look through here now and see which one it was. But I was like, that's not a country. You can't tell me that's a country. It can't be real. And I was like, oh, no, it is.
Well, and all of this is to the point, if you're listening and you're in another country right now, you have no idea how much it means to us to have somebody tell us that they listen from another country. So please just like comment sometime on something. Like, I want to know who you are, because that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. Like the folks out there in Uruguay, Romania, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Turkey, Iran, Republic of Lithuania, like Hungary, Netherlands, Finland, Poland, Argentina, like this is just, it is insane with
Mr. Worldwide.
Like, for real, though. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Like it's hard to fathom that what we have in our pockets can have that reach, right? And when we started with PB&J Productions, it was initially to help me selfishly. But it kind of started growing into this recognition that other folks want it too.
Yeah.
and realizing that other businesses could benefit from what we have knowledge of and how we know how to access this stuff. And not saying that it's impossible for anybody to figure out.
No,
but it's like you can do this easily enough where it becomes accessible, where the marketing plans of old of let's spend 6 months drafting what our print ad is going to look like. Let's spend 6 months drafting what our billboard's going to look like, and then put it up there and be like, man, that's really great. That's super cool. Or flip through it and be like, page 72 of a 300-page book. Look at this. You know? And we got to tease with social media. We got to tease with Facebook ads and all that stuff. But like to the level of this day one, can be heard anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Sometimes they use this phrase, the democratization of media. So basically the idea that like when you're in a broadcast standard, you have to fit your local demographic in the biggest chunk as possible because you have a geographic footprint. So if I'm in Baton Rouge, I got to do LSU. I got to do Mardi Gras. I got to do whatever you want to do. Because I need to be heard and liked by the highest percentage of people because I have a limited audience and I need to sell to advertisers, and advertisers want the biggest segment of the population I can get. So I'm normalizing as much as possible. In the internet age, the exact opposite is true. You want to be as defined a niche as possible so that the people that are into you find you and you own that piece of the pie. I now, instead of tuning into a syndicated cable show, radio show, whatever else, at a certain set time, that's going to be the most likely time I'm around, prime time, 5 o'clock. We got to do this, whatever, right? I can pick my time. I can pick my subject. I can pick my format. I can pick my person from anywhere in the world and consume exactly what I want to. And to service that market, I think there's a lot more specialization because in order to stand out, I now have to have something that collects a very specific group of people. I was lucky enough one time to meet the president of ESPN, Jimmy Pitaro. And one thing he told me was look for content that serves an underserved audience because it wins in that way. But to your point, this democratization of media, all of those things, basically the end result is we've created a system where anyone can have a voice. You can right now, if you're listening. And I mean, I would love to tell you that I have some gate that I can keep that you have to pay me $10,000 to have a podcast, like the television station, they have a giant 100,000 watt broadcast stick that you better pay their fee and figure out how to do it to be on it, right? That's the only option if you want to be on it.
Yeah.
I wish I had that leverage. I do not. You can go, if you're listening to this right now and this afternoon, start a podcast if you want. And the beauty of that is now anyone can do it. I think, where I'm still optimistic about having a place in that is their strategy, and you can be a student of what works and is successful and you can leverage it. Even though the marketplace is open, there's still going to be people that are successful at it. But yeah, it's interesting times. I think it's valuable. You mentioned, sort of the pathway of us starting this and then realizing other people wanted the same. I just think how it's set up makes so much sense for companies to market with it. The real big thing that kind of opened my eyes to it is I was talking to a friend sort of around when I was getting into podcast freelancing. I was asking them about a video ad campaign they were doing. All right. And they were getting quotes to come do a little 2-minute internet video. They wanted a 2-minute thing where someone came into their business, interviewed the founder, told the story, some B-roll, overcut it, some uplifting music, and we air it on morning news, and then we put it on the website, and it lives there. That's our story. And I was like, how much are people charging for that these days? I was like, what do they get for that? He's like, well, cheapest quote we had was $8,000. Someone wanted up to 20, somewhere in that range. And just thinking through like how expensive that is, what the prospects are as far as like, all right, we got to shut it down. We got to bring in lighting crews, an audio guy, multiple camera people, blah, 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 blah. And the reality is when you've got a studio like this set turnkey, you can bring people in. And if you can give me an hour of your time, I can make you 20 videos
at least
for a fraction of the cost.
And to further emphasize how that one clip is then just repurposed over and over and over again, some of our local favorite television providers have now gone on year 2 or 3 recirculating a video of me.
Yeah, Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too. Yeah. I was on that one for a long time. I can't believe that still going.
Like it's still I saw my grandfather the other day. He goes, Patrick, I saw it on the TV. I was like, well, yeah, it's around Thanksgiving. They're recirculating it, but it's like all year long.
Better than mine, I guess.
They just clip it up, and it's still happening. It's like 2 years in. Here we are. Same ad is still being played. Where, to your point, we've got this studio now set up where it's turnkey, and you have the flexibility to come in here in between phone calls or what have you, sit down and for 15 minutes talking to the camera, look here, say whatever you want to say, and then boom, we get you, 10, 15, 20, however many clips you want to pull from it. And then if you call me up later and say, hey, I didn't like it, let's change it, come back in the same day. Great. Come back in, change it, boom, here's the new thing. Like you have, with the accessibility to technology and with the accessibility to the infrastructure necessary to build this out properly, there's no reason why you have to wait for months to get a product done and ready to your consumers, ready to your potential customers, and then change the messaging halfway through whatever campaign you've got going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not shooting on any different cameras. I'm not using any different editing software than anybody else uses, but it's strategy. Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting world. I think, let me ask you this as a thought experiment.
All right.
Yeah. Is it a valuable use of your time, if you're a business owner, to go and speak at something like a Rotary Club?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd say, right? If you got invited to speak at Rotary Club, that's a pretty big honor. You're like, yeah, let's go check it out. That's awesome. Yeah. I can be in front of a bunch of people. I can, this is a notoriety thing. I'm going to, impact and spread the word of my business. With an hour of your time, I can get you a highly tailored message that's conversational like that. We're going to have videos and photography. And by the way, you're going to be in front of more people than you would be at something like that. They're just digital. I mean, every time we do this, hundreds of people hear it. And they hear it from behind a computer screen or on their cell phone, but they hear it, And so to me, if you're still kind of in an old school business mindset trying to figure out how does a podcast fit into marketing my business, I'm not going to be Joe Rogan overnight. Like, that's not the goal here.
No.
The goal here is, even if only 100 people listen to it, if there are 100 potential clients in your area, and then you're also able to get your entire marketing plan through highlight clips and on-set photography and quote graphics and all the different things we can turn a podcast into for this price, it's like you're getting invited to speak at Rotary Club every week,
Yeah, well, it's that it's that long form funnel that we talk about regarding the content. Meaning, you've got your big long hour clip up here, and then we're going to clip it down in some 3 to 5 minute segments, and it's going to live here. And then we're going to clip it down to some 90-second segments, and it's going to live here. And then we're going to clip it down to 60 seconds. Then we're going to clip it down to like 15 or 20 seconds, right?
Single sentence quotes,
right?
Yeah.
So you've got like all these different pieces that are intended to drive folks back up to the long form, but all those different pieces below that main bar were made within 1 hour. Mm-hmm. They were made within the 1 hour of shooting, and now you've got all this different content that you can clip and cut and repost and repurpose, and it's endless.
Yeah. If I had any type of public facing company, like, and truly my dollars were on the line, I would be doing at minimum a once a month podcast, no matter what. I mean, even if it's me setting up a single camera in my office and a lav mic and handling it myself and just pushing it out there and using Opus to cut it, I think it is like the greatest efficient use of marketing resources that exists currently. And I think the reason, like one of the big parts of it is just people are still behind the fact, and you referenced this a little bit earlier, that we're in an age of quantity over quality for marketing assets. In my opinion, you need to be putting out as much as possible, even if it's not the greatest, most polished thing in the world.
Even if it's not perfect, absolutely.
People are afraid. Like if you see something that is not perfect, you're like, it's going to damage my business, and the general consumer just depending on, and there's exceptions. There's going to be somebody that's so mad that's like, well, I'm a doctor, I can't not have perfect. I'm not talking to you. I'm just, there are exceptions, right?
Well, I think we are, though. I mean, you can't put out false stuff,
yes, right? I'm just acknowledging that there are some that...
I'm talking, I think maybe perfection in the quality of the product, not the accuracy.
I didn't like how my eyeliner looked. I didn't like how my voice sounded. I didn't like, any of these things that we get hung up on.
Yeah, run it back.
Yes. I think move fast, even if you break stuff, and push a lot out there, because that's the only way you're going to stand out. You need to be constantly in front of people. There is so much noise. You're competing in a global marketplace. As we said, the second you step digital, everybody in the world you're competing with. Even if you're a local business, the algorithm might recommend them a national business that happens to have a location near you. Like you are competing in the global marketplace. And to me, the way to win that is to weigh up your quantity. And a great way to do that is to get really efficient with how you produce content. And if the option is, all right, CEO of a company, I need you to come up with 50 ideas for short form videos. We're going to film 30 of them. We're going to post 20 of them. And it's going to take us months to figure that out. Or give me an hour of your time. Sit here, talk about what you do well in a conversational way, and let us handle the rest. And that's why this is such a interesting value to me.
Well, and especially when you start getting into PIP, and you start having picture-in-picture, and you start throwing up little clips, little graphics, little emojis, or whatever you want to throw up in there that makes it fun and unique. Now it becomes more of a voiceover ad campaign, right? Like it's no longer just you sitting here talking into the camera and like being, okay, what else am I going to say? Who am I talking? Who's on the back end? Who's receiving this? It's like, who's the person that's going to watch whatever I'm saying? You're now talking about a story about, how you walked into a house full of nothing but dead cats and bodies rotting everywhere. And then it's like, okay, well, let's tell more of the story. Let's maybe add some pictures here and there. And then let's show the finished product, right? So it's like, let's show this and not just have it in this storytelling fashion. It just opens up windows and pathways to a whole new way of marketing that has almost been inaccessible.
Yeah, I call it
the last, decade?
I call it brand authenticity. I've got a friend who likes to say Home Depot doesn't sell screws, they sell fatherhood. Okay. If you look at a Home Depot ad, it's not, we have the greatest screwdriver that was engineered in a lab at MIT that has the perfect degree of polish and, alloy that we've engineered over hundreds of years to be in, integrity and whatever else. No. What they sell is, do you remember building a tree house with your dad? And he used a Stanley plane to cut the wood, and you guys went to Home Depot and loaded up a whole thing, and the guy at Home Depot looked at your drawings for the treehouse and helped you cut the 2x4s right that you wanted to buy. And do you remember that memory? Come back and recreate it with your kid. We want that story, man. That's what we care about as human beings. Like, don't give me head on, apply directly to the forehead, head on, apply directly to the forehead. Like, give me something that gets me invested and cuts through the noise. And how much better when you can sit down and have a drink and have a conversational thing that we're going to cut up into highlights instead of, all right, pose, start, stop 100 times. Let's make sure you got makeup and lighting and all this stuff. And
Mark.
Right.
Clear the set.
So I just think it's a compelling place the marketplace is in. I think this is a super efficient, creative way that gives people that don't otherwise have a voice an opportunity to have a platform, lets you tell your business's story in a unique way. And I also think it's just more fun than most of the sets I've been on trying to produce advertising for things.
Well, and even then, from a messaging standpoint, when you look at podcasts, you're highly unlikely going to be shut down unless you do something like illegal or immoral, right?
At this point, I think you're even good there, to be honest with you. I think, we've thrown some of those out. But to your point, yeah, like no FCC regulation,
Right,
no
so-
subject off limits if you really want to go that route,
Yeah, no subject off limits, no whatever off limits. And now that you've got most platforms accepting and starting to promote video, and they're starting to push that out, and they're trying to get left behind by YouTube and all that stuff. Like without saying some things, and some platforms may ban you or demonetize, whatever it may be. But I've been going at this for 300 episodes now. And it's like, some people have said it's kind of dumb, why are you doing this? But, like, no agency or whatever has come at me and said...
no three-letter knocking on the door.
Right. Nobody with badges or anything has come busting up into the studio, kicking the door down, saying, you can't do this.
Right.
That just doesn't happen. Yeah, you've got a bunch of people and naysayers and all the lovely haters and whatnot that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're talking about this topic. Or, bruh, like, really, this is what you think is cool? And it's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't have anybody coming down with documentation saying you have to shut down and you cannot keep going.
Right.
There's none of that. Yeah, if you start being a little colorful on the air or on the TV waves, like, you're going to get shut down pretty quickly. They're going to go to commercial. They're going to break and say, we're done.
I can think of 7 words you can't even say once unless you're going to incur a giant fine.
Exactly, right? So you're going to get hit with fines. Like, here, the topics that are discussed and the businesses that utilize this tool, like, you listen to some of them and you look at some of them, or even you're aware that they exist out there, and you're like, okay, well, if they can be out here doing that, why can't I do it when I'm just trying to sell copiers?
Yeah. Truly. Yeah. And I think, this also hints back to something we talked about earlier, which is diversification of your position. When I'm talking about something like a marketing plan for you, we're releasing 50 episodes a year, and each one of those is getting at least 3, if not 4 highlights and a medium form video and a few other things. If one doesn't land, we're okay. I'm not going to pretend that every single episode we've pushed out is a must-see TV, right? Like, there's going to be occasionally...
Every episode is must-see TV.
Maybe other podcasts I'm talking about.
Other shows, not
right.
the Patty G. Let me be clear.
Right. But, if God forbid something happened and one of ours wasn't perfect, I've never made a mistake, so that won't happen yet. But we're fine. We got another one coming out next week, right? If I can only afford one big video marketing piece a quarter a year.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't land, I'm in hot water, dude. That's significant resources invested. If I pay $40,000 for a 30-second TV spot that doesn't work, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, if you don't have an ROI of at least 2 or 3x on that one asset, it's game over, man.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier to do it when it's a $500 podcast episode than when it's a, whatever, right? Yeah.
$50,000, TV spot.
Yeah.
Because not only then are you paying for the production, right? You then got to buy the airtime, right? So you're paying to have the episode produced, right? Yeah. So you're paying for people to come out, film this TV show, film this TV episode, this TV commercial, and then you got to buy the airwaves. You got to buy the airtime. And then you're only potentially buying one air slot. So you got to buy multiple slots.
Yeah.
And then depending on the time of day you push it, is going to change that price dramatically.
No doubt.
So now you're not only spending to push, and you're spending to record and spending to push. Whereas here it's like you record it and you can post it, and then, you can technically just let it live organically forever.
Yeah.
Or you can pay to boost it.
Do you know what I would say? Here's what I would say, and I can expand on this in a long way. We can unpack it. If you want.
Let's unpack it. Let's unbox that.
I would argue, if you have a consistent marketing budget as a business, it is almost to the point of financial irresponsibility to not have some type of podcast piece. I would go that strong.
That's a bold move.
Well, here's the thing. We've already outlined all these ways, and I'm telling you, like, if my money was on the line, this is what I would do. This is not like, I don't recommend bad strategy because that falls back on me. So if I didn't believe this, I wouldn't say it because that would be stupid. We've talked about the production piece and like the quantity that you can get. There's the evergreen piece, which you talked about, I think is really important. But then also, podcast style content makes all of your other marketing cheaper. And people may not realize that.
Elaborate, Jay.
Yeah.
Unpack that for us.
Let's imagine you started a social media platform tomorrow. Okay. Put your entrepreneurship hat on. You start Patty G Plus, and we're signing up, and we've got a
$4.99 a month.
Yeah, there you go. Now let's imagine you start a non-paid social media platform, because that does break my model, what you just said.
Okay, I'm sorry. Never mind. Free Patty Plus.
Let's imagine you start Facebook, right? Or something like that. What is your value proposition? Your users are not paying any money, so you're not generating from that. You're selling ads to advertisers. Why are your users there? It's not to see ads. So you've got this inherent pull in value. Users want to see user-generated and or entertaining content. That's why they're there. I go to Instagram to watch some reels and see pictures of people's kids and food and horrible political takes from people around, or whatever. That's what I go to consume. Instagram, to exist, has to push stuff that I'm not there to consume. And so there's this give and take, right? If I can marry those two, if I can say, here's an advertisement that I want to pay you for, but it's entertaining, they lose their mind. All of this, if you've ever bought digital marketing, you know that it's essentially surge pricing, right? How competitive are the eyeballs you're trying to buy? If I want to buy injury attorney Baton Rouge, I better have deep pockets. If I want to buy underwater basket weaving in Baton Rouge, I could probably have that one pretty cheap.
Probably.
Yeah. So there's this incredible thing that happens when you have content that works organically and you put money behind it, where these platforms will make you a king. They love that. They're like, you mean we can make money and not have to sacrifice this thing we had? And I think podcasts are as close to a perfect medium for that as you can get. I would posit that there are many companies in town that I could take their exact same budget, take a couple grand a month, $2,500, $1,500 out of their budget, and do a podcast. And their Google advertising, their Meta advertising would become so much more efficient that it actually would not change their marketing spend, and it would be better.
Are you putting that challenge out there, Jay?
I'm already living that challenge. There's several of our clients that would tell you, not only is that true, he can put the dashboard right in front of you and show you how that math works. One of the first big successes I had at this, and if you're at home and you're an advertising agency or you're a business that's bought digital advertising, go back and look at your numbers and realize what I'm about to tell you. I took a company that I consulted for that had a podcast, and I told them, let me gamble some money on Meta to promote this clip because I think it's good. Even though it's an advertisement, it's trending organically already. And let me show you what happens when I put money behind it. So this clip, we had posted it. It was already successful. This is my strategy, basically, of putting money behind things that are already winning instead of just deciding that you're going to put money towards something willy-nilly because your marketing agency told you need to spend 20 grand this month without a reason. We put $100 behind a 60-second or less Instagram vertical video, and that's how Reels were working. It got 1.1 million views. If you can show me another digital advertiser in town who has gotten that performance for that spend, even within a factor of 10, I would be surprised. It's not quite that good anymore, but in aggregate, that is the truth, is I can sell cheaper advertising than anyone else in town because the content is actually good and entertaining. And that's why I think podcasts really shine.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
Yeah. Which we'll be able to test that out next year.
Let's do it. I love that.
Yeah. So no, I think it's a fascinating realm that we've seen here in town already. right? You've got the garage happening with Gordon,
So cool.
which is a phenomenal place, and you've got all these other little like mini, not studios, but we have like JP. He's got a studio.
Yeah, there are people that are just kind of doing it.
There are people that are doing their own thing, that are having their own shows, and I love seeing that. We produce a handful of shows here in town locally as well, and it's like having more folks do it just boosts this whole idea and this whole philosophy that it's possible even more so. And folks can sit there and go back and forth, and should I do it, should I not do it? And then they get bogged down with, well, if I'm talking about the same thing somebody else is talking about, am I really bringing more value? And it's like, well, you're competing with them in business, so you already think you're providing a better value than they are. So just have a show that talks about it.
Yeah. And even if you were
and then let the consumers tell you yay or nay.
But you're 100% right. It does have an impact on all of us. And I'll tell you, your most viewed video to this day is because one of the guests we had on is a podcast client with their own podcast. Did you know that Sarah Wampler, a highlight of her, is like almost double your next most viewed video on YouTube?
I don't know. Have you scrolled all the way down in my TikTok?
I'm talking about YouTube specifically. YouTube. And there's something to that, I think. She's got a podcast that we produce. And because it's a similar sphere of influence, how the algorithm works is it sees Billy over here watched a Baton Rouge produced podcast, and here's another one. And also those two podcasts have talked about each other. And I know that because I'm an algorithm that's scraping all the text of this. Let me just see, and I'll put it in front of them. And it generates more audience and more local audience. And a rising tide lifts all ships. Like you said, I love seeing people pop up and get excited about podcasts. Several of them we've helped. If somebody calls and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast business, bring it on, man. I want you to do it. Like, I'll give you the whole playbook. Ask me what you want to ask me, because I think it's better for us. I think Baton Rouge could be an epicenter for stuff like that in the Southeast, because there's not a city that's the apparent podcast city yet, even still in my mind.
Well, even with Austin trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And here's why I think that it would work. Given that some of the guests we've had on have been boomerang guests, and they've come back to Baton Rouge, and then we always hit them with that final handful of questions at the end of every show, and we ask them what they love about Baton Rouge, and we ask them what they love about Louisiana if they're not technically in Baton Rouge, and it's always the people and the culture, right? So it's like, we've got something unique here in the boot that people are just fascinated by. Whether it's our pet alligators or, we
smell like corn dogs.
Like whatever it is, like we all eat too much food, whatever it is, whatever it may be, people are fascinated with Louisiana. You don't often hear about a bunch of people being fascinated with South Dakota.
Yeah, probably not.
Or Nebraska. Like, it's just like, they have all these other states that are like, oh yeah, this is really cool. But then when they look at the other states, Wyoming, Montana, okay, let's go there because it's got such great views. Like, the wildlife there is fantastic. Like, you can go out and go on this hike and you can do that. It's like, let's go to Louisiana. Why? Because the people there are dope.
Yeah, they're
insane. It's like, just go to Louisiana and people, you will have such a great experience from the people that are here.
Yes.
Not because you can go and, pet my pet alligator. It's like, because the people that are here make up this great place. So if we are, as a people, are creating content that folks across the globe are inherently drawn to, how can you lose at that point? And by the way, your worst case scenario is you make a flop.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'll
move on.
The only way we can lose, in my mind, and it's a real possibility in some ways, I think, is if we refuse to fully get in the game.
Yeah.
I took a trip this year to Las Vegas, Nevada. Incredible touristy kind of city, somewhere that people come from all over the world, stuff like that. And when I tell you, it was shocking how many things were Louisiana or Mardi Gras or New Orleans themed, people walking around with daiquiris. And if other places get it, why are we so afraid to embrace it?
Embrace our drive-through daiquiri shops.
Yeah, embrace everything. Dude, I posted this today because 50 Cent announced that they're building a venue that's supposed to be like the Sphere in Shreveport. And I'm like, what state our size, their like fifth most popular metro, has the lead rapper of G Unit trying to build a state-of-the-art entertainment complex in Shreveport? I know, because we're nuts. We're awesome. We are so weird. Come on down. Give us a microphone and a camera and a spotlight for our story. Let's actually leverage some of the assets we have as a state and put it toward putting this stuff out there, man.
So, to play on that, are you familiar with Key and Peele?
Yeah, of course.
So they have a segment that is this news segment, and they're like, it's a slow night, we need something. And they're like, let's go to this neighborhood. There's always something that happens.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's not going to be anything that happens. And they roll up to this house, and the news reporter's like, I'm telling you, like, there's always a story. There's always something here that's happened. And he's like, no, like, it's not, like, nothing's going on this evening. He goes, okay, give me a mythical creature. He's like, I don't know, Pegasus. He's like, all right, great, Pegasus. Okay, give me something else. And he's like, I don't know, tornado. He's like, okay, got it, watch. And he walks up to Key and Peele, and he's like, so what is your take on this Pegasus that's been throwing around tornadoes and uprooting homes? Oh yeah, man, this Pegasus, right? And like, they just go with it. Like, that's Louisiana. You just walk up and say, hey man, what'd you do this morning? Well, let me tell you about my day. And it's like, that's Louisiana. You prompt us with one little thing, and it's like,
rolling.
It's a roll.
Yeah.
And then that's every single day, every single area across this state.
You may not even realize how apt that analogy is, by the way. Did you know Key and Peele have a sketch that was inspired by LSU?
I don't doubt it.
Have you ever seen the one where they do the ridiculous like football player names, the East-West Bowl, where there's all the made-up names? Did you know that was inspired by an LSU player?
No.
They heard the name Barkevius Mingo and decided that's where they got the idea for that. They told a whole monologue about it. Yeah, LSU. So even people like that, like you literally brought up this example, those dudes in Hollywood are looking at us and going, they are so weird. We are going to leverage this for entertainment. And if they get it, why do we not?
I know, it's like we want to like shy away and say we're not your weird cousin at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we have a complex about it or something. Yeah.
Like I know, it's like, okay, like what? No, we don't want to talk about that. No, we don't want to talk about our drive-through daiquiris as you're in the line to get a drive-through daiquiri. It's like,
we're ashamed.
No, like we don't want to talk about like all of this and that and how we just do all these different things, how we tailgate all day long. We don't want to talk about that as you're at the tailgate. And it's like, we live it, we breathe it, we are it. Why are we not doing what we can to showcase it on a global scale? Like, given the fact that we had a guest come on the show that said they actively vacationed from Canada to Baton Rouge.
Yes.
And then moved here after going to the Carolinas, which a lot of folks here say they want to go and leave to go to, went to the Carolinas and then came to Baton Rouge, and it's been here ever since. Like, the fact that people outside of the state can see it. Either we are doing a poor job of marketing ourselves inside the state, or we're doing a banger job marketing ourselves outside the state.
I think,
and like, how are we marketing those folks? Like those British dudes.
Yeah,
those British dudes. I can't remember their name.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And they come and they try American food, and they're like, "What on earth is this? This has flavor." Like,
then it came to Louisiana.
I know.
And they said that they did the whole country, and they said the best place was Louisiana. And the fact that they could just show up with no plan, and all of a sudden you see them organically, unprompted, unpaid, going to all these different places.
Yes.
You know, yeah, maybe the swamp tour paid them to go there, but still, I doubt that they did, because it was just so fascinating to go on a boat and pet and feed an alligator. But it's like, yeah, we're leaving from, Monroe, and we're going to Lafayette, and tonight somebody told us we're going to a crayfish boil.
A crayfish.
Like, we don't know what this is. And it's just like, they show up and like their reaction is genuine. And like, they even came up with like, okay, like if we're going to live somewhere, it's going to be in Louisiana. Like, so the fact that you've got people who see it.
I know.
What are we doing?
You're going to get me so fired up about this, because this is the thing that probably bothers me the most, okay, about our state. People see it. Anthony Bourdain, R.I.P., had this incredible quote that I use all the time. It's one of my favorite quotes about Louisiana. He said, there's New York, there's San Francisco, there's New Orleans, and everywhere else is Cleveland. There are 3 cities in the U.S., New York, San Francisco, New Orleans, and everything else is not worth it. Go somewhere else. Gordon Ramsay filmed his entire last season of Kitchen Nightmares here. Those guys came down, binging with Babish, over 10 million YouTube subscribers, came down here, paid his own money to bring a massive production down here. He's fitting the bill. He's flying from across the country with cameramen, audio, editors. He's setting up local relationships to go eat at Commander's Palace, to go eat at all these places. He never interfaces, to my knowledge, any of these people when they come through to a certain extent with some of our biggest institutions that could capitalize on that. We can't get out of our own way. Whenever an outside large, opportunity like that comes in, we start fighting over the dollars. We start fighting over the attention. We go, it's not fair to give film tax credits because they're from Hollywood. We're afraid to embrace the incredible cultural assets we have here, to the point that we are letting other people from outside of our state leverage them for their own profit because we are too afraid to allocate the resources it would take. We don't want to be in the game even sometimes.
So those two British guys, I saw a video recently that they came out and said that Billy Nungesser.
There you go. Yeah.
Invited them to come down to New Orleans.
I love that.
To come down to Baton Rouge and Louisiana for Mardi Gras. So seeing him recognize that, reach out, we want to host you for Mardi Gras, like do that type of stuff is like, it's a step in the right direction. Right?
I know. But like, how is it that we're to the point, and that's to be commended to my, like to your point, that is incredible. I wish we did that constantly. If you flip the switch and God forbid I was lieutenant governor, nobody wants that, including me. You keep it.
We can't handle you as lieutenant governor, Jay.
God bless you. That is a brutal job and I have no desire, and good luck.
Yeah.
If for some unfortunate reason in a Twilight Zone-esque scenario, I found myself waking up as Billy Nungesser tomorrow, that'd be what I do, man. I mean, think about the national politics that have been influenced, not to take one side or the other, but just how much of it has gone to digital media. I mean, how many candidates were going on podcasts and meeting with huge internet personalities and, locally, like a Theo Vaughn being in for whatever side you want to look at. I'm not taking a political stance here. I'm just saying from an attention standpoint, people outside of the state have realized how much you can leverage those types of assets. And we need to do more of that because, like, how can we have a celebrity that big? How can those guys be coming here and us not know and roll the red carpet out for them? Even if you don't believe that, like, it's that important, do we not have some pride in who we are as Louisianians for welcoming in people like that? Like, is this not the festival culture? The first time I ever set foot on LSU's campus, I was not born and raised here. The first time I ever set foot on LSU's campus, I crossed the South Gate on Highland, and the first tent I came to, a guy in an LSU shirt handed me a little boat of crawfish and said, "Welcome to Louisiana."
Love.
And to me, that's who we are. How do we not do that for people that are coming in like that? So hopefully that is a step in the right direction.
It's doing things like that for people when they come in. But then it's also, how do we figure out a way in our day-to-day, maybe mundane life to recognize what they recognize and continuously appreciate it?
Yeah.
Like people are here saying, Louisiana's got nothing. Like people that live here for a long time, like Louisiana's got nothing.
Yeah, traffic on the interstate.
I got to get out of here. And I have conversations with folks all the time from across the country. And it's like, man, I wish I had Louisiana traffic with where we're at. I was on the phone with a guy the other day who is in West Hollywood. And he was telling me, "Oh, I've got time. I can talk right now." So we're on the phone. I'm like, "Great." Where are you headed? He goes, "I'm headed to the office." I'm like, "Okay." Like 10, 15 minutes. He goes, "Oh, no, I'm in the car for 2 hours."
Yeah.
He's like, "I have a 2-hour commute."
And by the way, how do you think he feels about our, 0.9% property tax or whatever you're paying depending on your city? Like, there's some serious advantages here.
There's serious advantages, and we often get a little short-sighted with that. We miss what we've got going for us just to see the pothole on the road.
Yeah. And that's not to say we don't have problems. And that's not to say, don't call them out, whatever. Yeah, let's work on stuff together. But also, can we just stop being crabs that are crawling over each other trying to get out of the bucket? Like, can we just go, we have some cool stuff here. We have people that are interested in it. Maybe, we just allocate a little bit and just roll out the red carpet. Let's embrace who we are,
And I think collectively, we as a state have a mindset of scarcity.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If you get a job, I didn't get it. And so now we're enemies. I mean,
and it's a scarcity mindset instead of a plentiful mindset. I know. Where, okay, because you are successful, I therefore cannot be successful. And it's couldn't be further from the truth.
I know.
It's like you can be successful and you can be successful. It's Oprah Winfrey here, man. Like everyone can be successful in their own way. That's not to say that just because you have risen in this occasion to whatever it may be, that I will never rise to such occasion. That's just it's something I see all the time, and I'm like, what are we doing here, man?
Sometimes I'm a competitive person. I like to win, but I don't like to win to the point that I wish ill on my competitors. And I think that sometimes we do end up with that, where it's like, well,
I mean, we cook alligator when we play Florida, we cook pig when
and
we
that's
play
fine.
Arkansas.
I'm mainly talking about the people that
in business
are our family and neighbors.
Yeah.
Like if you want to make fun of Florida, go for it.
Right, but it's like, oh well, no, I have a podcast talking about this. You can't have a podcast talking about that.
We have car dealerships across the street from each other, and so now we've got to have a blood feud. It's Hatfields and McCoys. That's not to anybody specific. That's just whatever. But
yeah,
I think there's a little bit of that sometimes where we get a lot of bit of that. Get too competitive. I mean, be competitive, but like this town's too small. Don't run people off, man. I mean, you're going to run up against them again. I mean, this is just too small, and we're in it together. We're in it against everybody else.
Yeah.
Let's take Texas and Florida's money. Let's stop fighting each other, Stop hiring a company from New York, because that might mean that you would have to pick between one or two or three of your buddies and offend somebody in Louisiana. You know what I mean? Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but let's start working together. Let's start rowing in the same direction. We've got actual, real cultural assets that we can use to vault us to another stratosphere.
And maybe that's part of the reason why we feel like we have to use these outside agencies or outside companies, is because we are such good folk here that we're worried about it. Yeah, hurting your feelings.
Right. Sure.
If I don't use you, but I go with another local company, well, that means when we go to Little League together, you're going to look at me and come up behind me and just shank me in the middle of the yard.
I'm not coming to your Sunday school class anymore.
Right. Like, just wait till I see your little 5-year-old Timmy out there on the soccer field. I'm going to shoot him with a slingshot and a rock. Like, it's like, what are we talking about here?
Dude,
like, so maybe I feel better if I go with an outside company, because then it's like, oh, well, I went with them just because, it's the neutral ground. Like they're out there. They were too far. They're far enough removed. It's not going to impact your business.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to somebody else, like Arkansas. Like it's no big deal.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh no, I'm giving somebody 3 doors down from you. Like I feel like that has to play a part of it, where it's like, oh no, we can't go shop at Calvin's or Mathern's or Rouse's. We got to go to like Walmart. So that way we're not like saying, oh no, we picked one or the other.
I know.
We went totally neutral, totally big. It's just
I think another part of it is we are sometimes, one fault I'll recognize, at least in the Baton Rouge sphere. I mean, I don't have quite as deep a run in any of the other major cities. Baton Rouge is certainly where I'm, the most connected and have the most.
Yeah, we just own in the 225.
Yeah. I'm known to pop down to New Orleans every time and again.
But, a little 504, a little 504 action. Okay.
I don't want to, make them feel left out. But just if this doesn't ring true for people in New Orleans, I think it might for some in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, just knowing the 985 folks.
One of the great things we have that I think you and I both are firmly aligned on is that you can be within 1 or 2 phone calls of just about anybody in Baton Rouge when you're in the circle, right?
Hang on, you said when you're in the circle. Don't make it sound like the Illuminati.
I'm gonna a little bit,
okay.
Because as someone who wasn't born and raised here, moved here at senior year of high school, and knew nobody really, did not go to a prestigious Catholic high school. That I've got all these business, whatever, right? Like, it can be hard to break in. We are sometimes too hesitant to give a shot to people that we don't know are guaranteed to perform in a certain way. We love to stick with known quantities in a way. And that's part of why this circle, once you get in it, is so tight, because you don't necessarily go to the open marketplace. You go to your buddy or your buddy's buddy that you know that can do a good job. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. Like if your neck is on the line and you need to know that something's going to work, you leverage your network. However, I do think sometimes that can limit the amount of new perspective that's allowed to enter the marketplace. I think sometimes we do things just because that's how they've always been done. And so we're afraid to take these big swings. It's not immediately apparent to us that massive YouTubers from England coming here could be a huge state tourism, whatever else piece, because we're so used to, buying billboards and putting up ads in Tiger Stadium. And not that those things don't work and aren't awesome, but maybe there's some alternative paths here, and we can sometimes be slower than bigger markets to do that. Like if you go to Los Angeles or New York or Austin already gets this. I mean, they do that. They're begging Joe Rogan to move there, right? They understand the value of somebody that's a new media type thing.
He's already in Austin.
I know, but I'm just saying, like 10 years, like whatever.
Oh, 10,
you know what I'm saying? Like
they were begging.
We're just now trying to get to that point where we understand that that's a valuable thing. We're a decade behind some of these other big cities in ways like that. And so I think, if I had an encouragement to business owners, take a gamble on outsiders. As somebody who was an outsider and had to really scrap for some opportunities, you might be surprised, because if somebody is fighting for it hard, even from the outside, they see a value that other people that grew up in it might have taken for granted.
Yeah.
You can actually capitalize on some of what you're talking about. Why do we not see this when you gamble on some of that, as long as they're choosing Louisiana? I mean, how many people are born here and choose elsewhere?
And then come back.
Yeah. And so how much of a cool thing is it if someone is from elsewhere and chooses here? Give those people an opportunity, even if they're not, your nephew's classmate or whatever. Take a gamble on somebody you might not know.
Give them a shot,
Yeah.
So, all in all here, 300 episodes later, man, I think we've seen great improvement from at least when I first started, at least in this space. And I know we've got a long way to go, but heck, I'm here for the next 300.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue, like, even as much as we've tinkered and improved and built a new studio and all stuff like this, we might still be doing the worst podcast that we'll do for the rest of our lives, because it's only going to get better. I mean, some of the strategy stuff we've talked about coming up in 2026, I think is really compelling. I think we've finally gotten our feet under us in some ways and got some systems coming into place. And I think Baton Rouge itself is poised for an explosion of stuff. If we can collectively work together and shake hands and sacrifice a little bit as a group to build and just trust that even if there's not a direct line item in a P&L that I can point to that says I spent $1 there and I got $1.50 back, maybe we can collectively put a little bit in together just to grow the state and see, a new frontier. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Heck yeah, man. I am too.
Yeah.
So, all right. That's a wrap of 300.
Yeah.